thank you very much for this well thought out presentation. And I'm glad to see you had the foresight to start planning ahead, because 2032 is going to come before we know it. I've written down a few questions. Obviously, personally, I don't want to continue to rent because I feel it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. And let's not kid ourselves. This is not our money. Okay, it's the taxpayers' money. So in planning, I'm a staunch advocate of putting money aside in reserves, knowing 2032 is coming. All right, and we know the building's going to cost millions of dollars. So have you begun to put money aside in the budget?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. So one of the things that I worked with the previous administration on was growing our fund balance. So since 2022, we had a balance of about 100 and I wish Paul were here, maybe 180,000. We're just about 900,000 right now.
Great.
And so we are hoping that we can, we're going to keep growing that fund balance to help offset those tax dollars. Thank you.
And I'm an advocate of that too, because it goes along with having foresight. You know, we're probably going to need to build new, and a lot of the information you've put forward tonight, I'm very happy to have received it because it's very, very important. I mean, we've seen the financial impacts in several of our projects that we're doing in the town because that foresight wasn't there, and it hurts the pocketbook of the taxpayers at the end of the day, because if we had set aside, as we're doing now, significant monies for the next upgrade of the sewage treatment plant, we would not be bonding as much money as we're bonding. We're putting, the town in financial risk because we're having to bond so much money. So do you have, and I know you, at least when I was liaison to the library, there was money that it was gifted to the library. Will that money be available to some of it to be dedicated towards this new building? Say?
So I can't speak for the foundation board. I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the foundation board. I would imagine that there would be money available. Yes.
Okay. It's a conversation you'll have down the road.
Yeah, and one that I think the foundation would welcome.
Okay. So have you taken a look at, because I know there's a lot of open space down there that's, when you're walking in, there's a lot of open space as far as square footage. So when you go to plan your building, it's, you can get a rough estimate of the cost based on square footage. So have you come to a decision as to what you're going to need for square footage, or is that something that you're going to continue to work on?
Well, there is I think, what did we say? The square footage size it's about a square foot per resident.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
To give you so if you have 45,000 residents in a community, the rough mark is a 1 square foot per resident for a library.
So you've got 45,000 square feet right now. We've got,
Yes.
45,000 people roughly in Webster?
Yep.
So you're talking about having a library that's the same size that has a lot of square footage is not used right now?
Well, so I think that's kind of where that's kind of where this whole, if we were to stay in that space to make it more usable and more efficient, we'd want to renovate that. You're right. There's a lot of dead space in that. When you walk in, it's maybe not utilized to its fullest potential. So I think that's the conversation we get into when we go, if we do build new, is when we get into programming with a design team, is how do we gain all of the services and all the wants we need for the least amount of square footage, right?
Yes.
And be as cost effective about that as possible. Right now, we're looking at a space. We're in a space where you're right. It's a lot of grand open space that's just not being utilized, and the goal would be is to make that more utilized. And do we think it's 45,000? We don't really know that at this point. We just know that that's
I'm
the
just basing
national
it
average.
on the current 45,000 square feet and the amount of square footage is it's dead square footage.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So in my conclusions to that would be, if you were going to build new, you don't need 45,000 square feet. I don't know how they came up with that metric as far as 1 square foot per resident. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, if this, when the library flipped its entrance, I don't, the history that I've gathered, I don't know that was a particularly library-led effort in terms of thinking about how that space was laid out.
Yeah.
I can tell you at a bare minimum, we need more study rooms. We need a larger community room. And if I could renovate or start with a blank slate, I think we could build a smarter library more effectively.
And no doubt.
And I agree with you. There's a lot of open space that we try to make use of, but could be better used and better planned, for sure.
So I don't mean to get into the weeds on this, and I apologize if I'm asking questions that aren't appropriate at this time. But I have a question about, you talked about the community room, which is used a lot.
Yeah.
And the community as a whole benefits a great deal. Do you charge rent for that community room?
No, it's free. We do encourage donations, but generally speaking, no, it's free. I would say there's some community groups that regularly donate, but it's few and far between.
Okay. This may be inappropriate, but why do you not charge rent? If you are planning on building, you need revenue. The revenue could offset.
I mean, philosophically, the reason. I mean, first of all, that's the way Webster has been before me. But if I were to make that decision, I'd make the same one. And the reason being is that the community paid for that community room already, and so in many ways,
Okay.
they've already invested in it. So I that would be. And I feel that way with the books and just about every other thing that we offer as well.
I'm not saying it's a positive or negative.
Oh, no,
I'm just
no, I
being
agree.
curious. So asking the question so everybody,
It's a good question.
everybody knows.
And I would say totally appropriate, in my opinion.
Would it be appropriate for you in the next few years to have, maybe Kyle, you could weigh in on this, fund drives to help fund the new building if we go that direction? Is that legal?
It's not legal for the library to do. It is legal for the Friends and the Foundation to do.
Yeah, these were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you have a parcel in mind?
No.
And talking about, we've had some conversations, of course, about money, and we're looking at grants. There are grants out there. There are also other initiatives through the library system that have money associated with it that we would certainly look to take advantage of when it comes time.
Well, it sounds like you guys are looking into every avenue, and I appreciate the input and the answers, and I'm sorry that I'm taking up so much time.
You'll probably have
I
more
appreciate
questions.
your input.
Part 2, you'll have a lot more questions.
Okay.
I can already see it.
And I like questions. It's my job.
Yeah, I see these guys all day, every day, so I think you guys will be able to answer anything you want.
No, John asked. Get this closer. John asked many of the questions. The thing with size is you have to watch. 6 years is a long time. We don't know how the community is going to grow, change, and evolve, or how utilization is going to grow over time. So, just making sure that's taken into consideration with the space will be very important. So it's not only built for the need in 3032, but the need in 3062.
Oh my gosh, Jennifer.
Yeah.
You know how old I'll be.
Yeah, but there'll be a lot of people who are, I mean, I grew up here. When the library was here, I spent much time in this area going through encyclopedias to write papers, in the 4th grade when there was no
I miss
internet.
those.
So
Yeah.
when dinosaurs roamed the earth, that's how we did things.
But that's why like libraries are such a key part of the community, not
Yeah.
just for the books, the space. And, I'm the liaison now to the library, so I've been in the weeds with Adam on this. I think he's doing the right thing. He's looking ahead. Adam, to kind of dovetail off of Jennifer's thing, how do you kind of think about that, of how the library's changed in the use of residents now, and how do you and fellow librarians think about that as you plan to the 2060, as Jennifer said?
I'll be retired by then. But seriously, I would say the role of the library, there's a lot of professional hand wringing that goes in library circles. What are we going to do when the internet came? What are we going to do that AI is here, et cetera? The library, a book is a piece of technology. A book is a way to share a story, to share information, to help educate. It's just a format. And while it's a format that's very accessible and very familiar, and hopefully familiar to kids that are the age of my kids, it's really about connecting people to the information and the expertise that they need, and hopefully when they need it. So I don't see the role changing as much, but I do see the way we're being used changing. So there's obviously more demand for digital services. Digital services we don't own. A book we can resell. A service we pay for, and when we stop paying for it, it goes away. That's a big seismic change for libraries, and one that eats up increasingly large portions of collections budgets. On top of that, my predecessor, Terry, had this vision, one which I embrace, of the library as the community's living room. And it really is, if you looked at those stats, one of the most dramatic changes was the use in our meeting rooms and our study rooms and our community room. So that demand on space, whether it's to connect with a tutor, again, connecting with expertise, or having a group meeting about what action to take next on a particular project, or we've got a mushroom hunting workshop next week, how to safely forage for mushrooms, right? And these may sound like kind of one-off kind of things, but these are all requests and needs that we're hearing from the community. And I think that that's one main way, is we've shifted to try and connect people with the experts in the area, as well as to the books, to the online resources. And it's not to downplay all the other stuff that is our bread and butter, but that's one area of, I would say, rapid growth for libraries.
All right, and then next question is, you and the board think about this. What's your viewpoint, is to John's point of being fiscally responsible, to balancing needs versus wants, when you start to think about what a new library looks like, whether you stay in the space or you build a new space?
So I think the first kind of like, if we're thinking of this as a process, one of the gates or process gates that we're dealing with is finding out which direction the community wants to go. And that's really where we're at right now, and why we've brought it to the town and to the board to discuss it. Once we get through that, in terms of figuring out what we want versus what we need, is really a process that we work with a designer and an architect on, to try and work through what is the best layout, what is an efficient use of space, what is really necessary, because the idea is not to build, I'm going to make an assumption that Webster is not trying to rebuild the Taj Mahal. We're trying to look at what does a library look like in 2032, 2062, 2092. Paring down those wants is really a process that will work collaboratively through community input, meetings like this. We're also usually, when an architect comes in with a project like this, they help us run study groups, so that A, I'm not filtering things through myself or through my own mouthpiece, and B, they're the experts in building that space. So when they hear, oh yeah, we'd really like more meeting rooms, yeah, sure, of course. Oh, we also want a stable for the library's pony. Well, that sounds like, and I'm being absurd to prove a point, though, is that we will have extreme requests, and we do get requests to this day that are Lovely ideas, but potentially not particularly fiscally responsible.
You're going to
So-
say no to the in-ground pool, right?
I'm not going to have a pool, correct?
Come on, John. Pool, water park,
I know, I'm such a killjoy.
chickens, maybe chicken coop.
Oh, boy.
No animals. No. So service animals only, please. But I'd say that's how we do it, is working through the process of both working with community input and working with a knowledgeable, experienced architect who has experience in building community centers and libraries like this.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.